Hi, my name is Jordan Jackson, and this is how I met Dave Grohl. So this whole story, it's got some funny parts, got some sad parts, it's got some amazing parts, but I am an alcoholic, always will be. I don't drink, been sober for almost 5 years, but I'm still an alcoholic because that's what addicts are. So when growing up, I had a lot of, I don't know, undiagnosed mental health issues with like anxiety and depression and all that jazz. And I really gravitated to the music of Nirvana and Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age later on. But if you see one person in all that, it's Dave Grohl. And he's always been a real big inspiration for me. My darkest times, my very darkest times, their music would help me. I would relate to it because I was that kid with the trouble past, and wasn't a bad kid, but everybody was doing shit they shouldn't have been. But their music always ring a bell with me. I love Nirvana. I got all their music on vinyl, all the Foo Fighters on vinyl, most of Queens of the Stone Age. It's just like I once a year I listen to all those albums and remember where I was, what I was doing. But I remember those times there was good times in those times, but also for where I was at those times in my life. And it's also a little reminder of how not to be like that. So I did this interview a couple years ago and talked about how Dave Grohl, when he cooked barbecue, he used barbecue. When he broke his leg, when Dave Grohl broke his leg, he used barbecue to kind of help rehab himself. And I always thought, man, that's really cool. When I was in my worst time in barbecue with the drinking and stuff, I used Dave Grohl as my rehab for for their music and just to help me feel like I could relate to something. And so fast forward out of all that, and it's 2019, and I'm at the climax, I guess, of my addiction, and decided to check myself into a rehab facility. And I went to a rehab facility for about 21 days, and then I decided I needed more help. I wasn't ready. I was still in the first rehab, just trying to learn how to drink more responsibly. And little did I know, you can't drink anymore when you're an addict. Come from a long line of alcoholics in my family. But I thought I could drink responsibly. Never relapsed, but in my mind, I was ready to go back and try to give it a whirl. But I then decided that it was time to go to another facility. I was not ready. And I found one in Austin, went to it. It's called extended care. It was like the step after going to a rehab facility. There, you're still under the close watch, and you don't really have many freedoms, but graduated from that into a kind of a sober living at the same place, and you got to have a job when you're there. So I tried to get a job that was not barbecue related, and I was in the last week, and I decided if I'm going to go work somewhere, I want to go be challenged, and I want to go work for somebody who I have a great deal of respect for. So I went to Franklin's unannounced, and I went in there unannounced and asked if I could have a job, and I asked if Andy was there, and he was, and I asked him if I could have a job, and he's like, "You're lying. Why are you really here just hanging out eating barbecue?" I was like, "No, I really need a job," and I explained my circumstances. Only needed to be for 3 months. That was the whole reason of being down there. I was just going to be down there for 3 more months, and then I was moving back home. And So I asked him if I could have a job to where I only work in the back. I don't want to see people. Nobody really knew where I was at because I didn't want people thinking bad things about me for being in rehab, because it would, to me, I had an image to uphold being the number 4 best barbecue guy. I felt like I'd be letting everybody down if people knew that I was in rehab. So I started working there. It was great. I was making sausage and cooking turkeys and stuff early in the morning and still doing meetings every night. I went to 90 meetings in 90 days, plus working full time. It was tough. And one day we had a cutter who wasn't going to be working there anymore, and we didn't really have anybody. And Aaron asked me personally if I could cut up front. And I didn't want to. I was like, oh no, I am not going up and seeing people. I'm not going to be on YouTube and Instagram and all that. That's not me. I'm done with that life. And I had a few days to prepare for it, and I did it. And that was the most nervous I've ever been at a job in barbecue, anything. I never approached anything with anxiety in barbecue. I was always happy, and felt like I had cold water in my veins, or ice water in my veins, and could handle anything until that day. I was sober. I was about to cut for 300 or 400 people at the world's most famous barbecue joint, and I was scared to death. So the first 20 minutes, when the door opened, everybody gets excited when the door opens there, and people walk around, they hoot and holler, and whew, when they're coming around the little partition. And they came up to me, and I don't even know if I could talk. I was so scared. I've never had a problem talking. Ask anybody that knows me. For the first about 20 minutes or so, I was scared to death. All of a sudden, something snaps in me, and I realize I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. I can cut, I can talk, I can do both of them together. And I had a sense of confidence come back to me that I hadn't had in, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I was at a dark place at that time. Not only was my rehab helping me be vulnerable and come out of my shell and help me with everything I had going on, but I didn't realize that the barbecue was doing the same thing for me. It didn't click right off the bat, but I got through with that shift, and it felt like it was an hour-long shift, but it's really like 4 hours of cutting straight, and it felt like it just went by so fast, and I kind of like, I had this really cool rush come over me, and I was like, I want to do that again. That was fun. And that was the day that I realized that barbecue can be good. It can kind of rehab me. So I looked at it as kind of a crutch to help me with a lot of things personally, and it did. I continued to get better and better every day and come out of my shell more and more, and I wasn't afraid to be in front of people. I didn't have that sense of a shame because I was an addict. Nobody knew I was an addict. Nobody gave a crap. But I felt like everybody did, and I felt like everybody was judging me all the time. But I did a story with Daniel Vaughn, and I had a really great outreach of people saying how proud they were of me for being vulnerable about my addiction and stuff. And that was hard. That was super hard. But to know that people are rooting for you, that's a good feeling, because when you're in the state I was, you just feel like nobody's on your side. You just don't feel loved, when it's not true. People did love me. People loved me way more than I ever knew. And I couldn't see it. Could not. But that brings me to about 4 years later. I'm at my last week of working at Franklin's. Super emotional time. And I find out, hey, we got a person that's coming to eat And I knew that the Foo Fighters were in town. And I was just like, please be Dave Grohl. Please be Dave Grohl. And then I'm in the pre-order trailer and this car door shuts. And Dave Grohl just walks into the back. I was like, no way. This is, no way. And yes way. It was there. It was Dave Grohl. I was like, I don't know. I'm like kind of like nervous talking about it because it was so cool. But I actually got to have about 20 or 30 minute conversation with Dave, me and him. And I'm not going to go into details. One of the coolest conversations I've ever had with anybody. They say don't meet your heroes, but meet your heroes if you get a chance. And wow, what an amazing human being that dude was. I met some incredible people, but the conversation we had, we talked about all kinds of great things, from addiction to music to whatever, in that short amount of time. But it felt like forever, and I felt like I was just talking to an old friend. And he treated me like I was his friend. He is the most personable person I've met of his stature, and it made me feel special. And that was really freaking cool to get to talk to my hero. No pun intended. And what else? Sausage? Oh. So the day after I left working at Franklin's and was on a Sunday, or the day I quit working was on a Sunday, I started my own business the next day. I was literally working in Tyler the next day as a consultant. I opened up a consulting business because I want to teach people. I want to help somebody who is already working on a barbecue project, help them figure out their talents and help them understand their talents and use them, and not just do the mold that everybody else wants and just do the same old brisket all the time. I'm trying to help people figure out what they want to do with the way they're already doing it and become the best that they can be. I'm here at Stanley's right now. It's my old stomping grounds. Worked here a decade ago, and had some really amazing times with some great people here, and a lot of them still work here. After a decade, you don't ever see that. Nobody works anywhere for more than 2 years in restaurants, but there's some greatness to that. And there's like 8 people that still work here. That's really cool, but I am helping an old friend achieve some things that he's been wanting to do for a long time, and it feels good. I want to help people. I want to teach people. I feel like I have a knack for teaching, and that's what I want to do with my career now. I don't want to be a day-to-day barbecue person anymore. I am here as a teacher, and look me up if you need some help. You want to be better at barbecue? Hopefully I can help you. If you want to be better at being sober, I can help you. Other than that, I'm not much help to you.